Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting of the 18th of June 2024, which is being held in person in the Great Hall here at the Civic Centre, 25 Ferris Boulevard, South Morang, and the meeting is also being live streamed. I'm Lydia Wilson, Chair Administrator of Council, and I'd also like to introduce my panel colleagues. Firstly, we have online Administrator Peter Duncan.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Peter. And Administrator Christian Zara.
Good evening, everybody.
And I'd now like to introduce our Acting Chief Executive Officer, Debbie Wood, and ask that she also in turn introduce the members of the Executive Leadership Team in attendance.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce our Director of Community Wellbeing, Agata Hemilevsky, the Acting Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Sharon Girantini, our Acting Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Mason, the Acting Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Nick Mazzarella, the Executive Manager Public Affairs, Janine Morgan, and our Executive Manager Officer of Council and CEO, Jacinta Stevens. I'll now hand back over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Debbie. I note that there are no apologies this evening. Before we begin, on behalf of Council, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri Willem clan and Tongarong people as the traditional owners of lands within the city of Whittlesea, and I'd also like to pay my personal respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'll now read our diversity and good governance statement. At the City of Whittlesea, we are proud of our diversity and the many cultures, faiths and beliefs that make up our community. We strive to be an inclusive, welcoming city that fosters active participation, well-being and connection to each other and this land. We commit as a council to making informed decisions to benefit the people of the City of Whittlesea now and into the future, to support our community's vision of a place for all. We have a number of acknowledgements this evening, and if I could hand over to my colleague Peter Duncan for a couple of initial acknowledgements. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to acknowledge the sad passing of Ron Driscoll, and it is with sadness that we acknowledge his passing. And he was an award-winning local artist and a long-time resident of Thomastown. And Ron was a regular contributor to the City of Whittlesea's annual art exhibition and very well known for his portraits. In 2021, Ron wrote this himself. Originally a house painter, I started painting landscapes and still life in 1989. I like painting portraits of people and like meeting people. And I think that sums him up fairly accurately of his own words there. In 2021, Council commissioned Ron to paint a series of 24 small portraits of members of our community to celebrate the diversity of our residents and the really rich story of their lives. His works are prominently displayed within Council's Civic Centre, including a selection of face-to-face series and his portrait of Maguire, which I'm sure a lot of us have all seen. His passing is a great loss to our community, and we send our deep thoughts and condolences to Ron's family and friends. And I've just got another one, please, Chair, and that's to acknowledge World Elder Abuse Awareness Day and Ageing Well Expo. And on Saturday, the 15th of June, we observed the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And this is a really important day to remind us all that elder abuse is a critical issue affecting older adults everywhere. Elder abuse can take many forms, including financial, emotional, physical, and neglect. So to encourage more conversation and awareness on this important matter, some of our senior residents participated in the Warm Safe Home project, and they created small cardboard house models decorated to represent what a warm and safe home means to them. And these wonderful creations were on display today at our Ageing Well Expo, which I know our chair had a great time alongside looking at these things and being part of the expo and seeing the wealth of information on how to stay safe and live well as you age. The expo also featured information sessions with Senior Rights Victoria on preventing elder abuse and other expert-led sessions on important topics like retirement planning, avoiding scams and advanced care planning. Thanks to everyone who participated today in the Ageing Well Expo, and I'm sure, Chair, you had a delightful time as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Administrator Duncan, and I certainly did have a delightful time, and it was an incredible expo. Thank you. Could I now hand over to Administrator Zara for a couple of additional acknowledgements?
Thank you, Chair. This week is Refugee Week. It's a time to come together to recognise and celebrate the enormous contribution our refugees make to our community, our identity and our culture. To celebrate, Council is hosting an event on Thursday this week from 9:45am to 1:30pm here at the Civic Centre. We invite everyone to come along to this special event and enjoy multicultural performances, art, dancing and entertainment, whilst also raising awareness about the challenges faced by people from refugee backgrounds. Chair, we've also got World Environment Day. On the 7th of June, we had the pleasure of welcoming over 350 people to our celebration of World Environment Day, which is celebrated globally on Wednesday the 5th of June. The event featured a special screening of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax at Plenty Ranges Arts and Convention Centre. This film engaged our community with its colourful portrayal of the whimsical truffula trees and its unique characters, sharing key lessons on the significance of conservation and environmental responsibility. Chair, there wouldn't be a parent listening tonight who hasn't read that book many times. Thank you to everyone that joined us. We are grateful for our community's enthusiastic participation and their shared commitment to protecting our environment.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a final couple of acknowledgements, if I could make this evening, and it's really to recognise some of the incredible achievements of staff right across the organisation. But I also need to note that includes staff from neighbouring councils as well, as a number of the projects cut across municipal areas. So at the National Growth Areas Alliance meeting, we received 3 awards. The Built Environment Award for the Affordable Housing Project in New Epping, which is a joint effort with Riverlea and Haven Home Safe. Secondly, the Building Connections Award for our Economic Participation Plan 2023 to 2026. And finally, the Leadership in Growth Areas Award for our collaboration with Mitchell Shire Council and Hume City Council in planning the Cloverton Metropolitan Activity Centre. And a number of these awards are actually to my left on the small table. In addition, our Quarry Hills Future Directions Plan received 2 awards. Firstly, the 2024 Magali Award celebrating local government's participation with First Peoples, and the 2024 Victorian Landscape Architecture Award by the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects. And at the Parks and Leisure Australia Victorian Tasmania Awards, our collaboration with Mitchell Shire Council and Hume City Council earned the Strategic and Master Planning category again for the Cloverton Regional Community and Recreation Needs Assessment. The final award that I just wanted to note this evening is that our annual report which was for the 2022-2023 year, was honoured with a Gold Award at the Australasia Reporting Awards. And if I could pass on from Council the congratulations to the number of Council staff involved in the development of our annual report. Well done to the team. Finally, this evening, I just wanted to again acknowledge the business awards that were recently presented to a number of our very amazing businesses across the municipality. So we gathered in May for the annual business awards, and it really was a wonderful celebration of our dynamic businesses, large and small. So my congratulations on behalf of Council go to all of the winners. The overall Customer Service Award went to Mantra Melbourne Epping. Workplace Diversity Award went to Edlin Foods Proprietary Limited. The Community Contribution Award went to Big Group Hug. The Sustainability and Environment Award went to Nugal Bic Plants and Seeds, which is a partnership between Whittlesea Community Connections and Hanson Landfill Services. The Innovation and Enterprise Award went to Distinctive Features, Cosmetic Tattoo and Beauty. The Home-Based Business Award went to A-Grade Resumes. And finally, the overall Business of the Year for 2024 went to Mantra Melbourne Epping. Again, our congratulations go to all the nominees for those awards and clearly to the overall winners. It was a really wonderful evening. If we now move to declarations of conflict of interest, administrators and officers, if you have a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda, you may verbally disclose the type and nature of the interest now, but you must also make a declaration immediately before consideration of the matter in question. Administrators, are there any items for which you have a conflict of interest to declare this evening?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
And I also have no conflict of interest to declare. Do any officers present this evening have any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to any items on the agenda?
No, Chair.
No, Administrator.
Just in relation to confirmation of minutes, I seek a motion to confirm the minutes of the following preceding meeting, the scheduled meeting of Council held on the 21st of May 2024. Could I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
And a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put the matter to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 4.1 is public question time, but I note that there were no public questions that were received by Council for this Council meeting. I also note in relation to item 4.2 that there were no petitions that have been received. And finally, in relation to item 4.3, joint letters, there were no joint letters received for this Council meeting. So accordingly, we'll now work through the Council agenda, commencing with item 5.1, LXRP, Request for Declaration of Road, Keon Parade Railway Car Park Entrance. And if I could invite our Acting Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Sharon Giratini, to briefly introduce this item. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Lily. Good evening, everyone. This item relates to a request from the Level Crossing Removal Project for the rezoning of a parcel of council land. I'm going to hand over to George, our Unit Manager of Strategic Property, to discuss it.
Thank you, Sharon. Council owns a small parcel of land on the north side of Keon Parade. It is right next to the old Keon Parade Railway Car Park. The land has been used for many years to provide vehicle access to the railway car park that is owned by Victrac, A legal right of carriageway exists over the land on title, and this is essentially a private road. The Level Crossing Removal Authority has constructed the new elevated railway station on the south side of Keon Parade, and additional land has been recovered on the north side of Keon Parade because the railway lines have been lifted. And so access over Council's land to service a larger area in a public domain is critical. Council is a road authority, and the Level Crossing Removal Authority is asking Council to consider declaring the small parcel of land a local road under Section 204 of the 1989 Local Government Act, essentially to characterise it as being suitable for public access. The report to Council summarises the assessment by officers from a planning, engineering, legal and public benefit perspective, with a recommendation for a declaration of a local road by Council.
Thank you very much, George. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
I don't, Chair.
No, Chair.
I also have no questions in relation to this item, so I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.1.
I'm happy to move that way, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
It is second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to this item?
Very briefly, Chair. This is good common sense. I thank our officers for the work they've done in collaboration with our partners, the state government, to get what I think is a good outcome for everyone.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan?
No, thanks, Chair.
I probably would just make one comment, and I see, and with the officer recommendation, that we had one objector in relation to this particular request for declaration of the road, and the fact that the shared pathway would be relocated to the north side of the public open space reserve obviously addresses the concern of that particular objector, which I think is a really positive outcome. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.2, 1025 Yan Yean Road, Doreen Development Plan. And if I could invite our Acting Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Mason, to briefly introduce this item.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to consider the 1025 Yan Yean Road, Doreen Development Plan. I have with me today Taras Rago, our Strategic Planner, who will further introduce the item and talk to it. Thank you.
This report relates to the 1025 Yan Yean Road Development Plan, which will facilitate the development of the site for residential purposes, providing approximately 7 new homes. The subject site is 1 hectare in size and is located within the established suburb Doreen. It is one of the last sites in the area to be developed. Some of the key features of the development plan include providing for lot sizes of 500 to 650 square metres on the western interface and 900 to 1,000 square metres along Yan Yean Road, which adjoins the Green Wedge. This is in keeping with the existing surrounding lot sizes. The retention of a significant river red gum tree and other native vegetation within open space, and also the provision of a shared path linking the site to Yan Yean Road. And also the continuation of existing road Laburnum Close into private roads to service the future lots. The development plan was placed on non-statutory exhibition in February and March this year, during which Council received 2 submissions, one supporting the development plan and one objecting to the location of the shared path within the open space reserve. In response to this submission, it is recommended to relocate the shared path to the north side of the open space reserve, whilst not impacting on the protection of the river red gum tree. Once the change identified in the report is made to the development plan, Council officers consider that it will be suitable for endorsement. The report recommends that Council authorise the CEO to approve the final updated development plan once the recommended change has been made to the development plan document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taras. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I don't have any questions, Chair.
Neither do I, Chair.
I do have just one question, if I could, Taras. I wonder whether you could perhaps clarify the sort of hierarchy of planning controls and processes governing this site. We're obviously considering this evening the development plan, but I note within the officer report that there will be the requirement for future planning permit applications to actually determine the actual number of lots and so forth. And I also note that there's a requirement for the development of a cultural heritage management plan as part of the future planning for the site. Could you just briefly clarify how all of that fits together in the hierarchy?
Yes, so the overarching strategic plan is the Mernda Strategy Plan. The next level of planning is the development plan, which is the subject of the report today. Any future planning permit must be generally in accordance with the approved development plan, and a planning permit application would require additional documentation relating to various topics such as traffic, stormwater management, cultural heritage, and native vegetation.
Thank you. Thanks for that summary. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.2?
I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.3, Sport Fair Access Policy Post-Consultation Approval. And if I could ask our Director of Community Wellbeing, Agata Chmielewski, to introduce this item. Thank you, Agata.
Thank you, Chair. So tonight we to you for endorsement the City of Whittlesea Fair Access Policy, which is around the usage and planning of community sports infrastructure. We consulted on the draft policy between March and May this year, and I'll introduce Drew, who is the Acting Manager of Acting Creative Communities, to talk to the consultation outcomes and the final policy.
Thank you, Agata. So for the draft Fair Access Policy, we consulted through a range of methods, including talking to students at a youth employment seminar, hosting an online sports club forum, and being the first presentation to the Youth Council. We also promoted the draft policy and consultation through our aquatic centres, libraries, secondary schools, and through a documentary screening at PRAC regarding a newly formed Women and Girls Sports Club. We received over 50 responses regarding the policy itself, as well as drivers regarding participation, including barriers to participation from both community members and sports clubs. The feedback from the consultation, including the importance and availability of women and girls teams, opportunities to play with friends, and the provision of safe and supportive environments were consistent with the draft policy regarding equitable sports infrastructure, and therefore we have proposed no changes to the policy. Other feedback, including some excellent feedback from the Youth Council regarding how we promote women and girls participation opportunities, as well as the adequate provision of facilities and uniforms, will be incorporated into council and club action plans. We will continue to work with state sporting associations, local clubs, Youth Council and other stakeholders in the development and implementation of these action plans. And we will continue to work with clubs and provide education sessions and other resources in the implementation of these action plans. And this will be required for clubs to continue to get priority access to facilities as well as funding opportunities.
Thank you. I wasn't going to stop you because I thought you were just about to finish. That's okay. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I don't have any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Me either, Chair. Thanks.
I also have no questions. So I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.3.
Chair, I'm happy to move the officer recommendation with the following changes to parts 1, 2 and 3.
And I might just... oh no, so we are projecting them. Good.
Thank you, Chair. Is what's up on the screen the proposed amended version, or is that the existing one that's in the recommendation as it appears on the agenda papers?
The proposed changes, I believe.
Yeah, that is with your proposed change.
Well, then, to save everyone having to hear me read it out, I'll just move the motion as it appears on the screen, which I understand will also appear on the live screen. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So just to note, the recommendation that we have projected is with the revisions.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chair. They're minor in nature, but the main thing is everyone can see them.
Okay, so do I have a seconder for the recommendation with revisions?
Yep, seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the work that's gone into this. Our officers have done a great job engaging with our community on this important policy area. One of the things that I just want to take the opportunity in this public forum to emphasise is that the officers have presented this as a great opportunity for council to do even better work in partnership with our community. I really applaud that and recognise that we've got a ways to go in terms of where we want to be in terms of equal access, equal gender access for people in our local community. I just really applaud that, Chair, and I really want to extend that appreciation to our team. Chair, it's evident that there's interest in doing better, not just from our officers but from the local community, and we see that through the engagement process. I just want to draw out and give some recognition to a particularly outstanding submission that we received from the City of Whittlesea's newly established Youth Council. Now, I've been around the block a time or two, as you know, Chair, in different roles, and I've seen a lot of submissions from different groups, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a better and more cogently written and, I think, passionate submission than from our Youth Council. I'll just call out the different categories. You know, in each of the categories, they've really set out what they believe strongly needs to be addressed in order for us, as is our shared ambition with our local community sports partners, to get to better outcomes in terms of equal gender access in sports. They talk about male-dominated sports culture, talk about facilities and changing rooms, talk about marketing, talk about uniforms, gender categories. It is so cogent under every one of their topics. I'm really pleased that their submission is publicly available, Chair, as part of the agenda papers. I just encourage people who are interested in this topic to have a read through, because for me it offered real cut through in terms of not just this policy but more generally what we need to do as a community to get to better outcomes. So I really support this work. It obviously aligns in a very direct way with state government policy. It's another example of where our work and the state government's work are very sort of closely connected, closely aligned. And in the years ahead, you know, in terms of funding, the things that local community groups are going to want to do in partnership with ourselves as a municipality, but also with the state government, these are not just nice-to-haves. These are things that you absolutely must have. And that requirement must be there in order for us to make change. And the great thing about all these submissions is that they're all about change and wanting to see those better outcomes.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Administrator Zara hasn't left me much to say, but just to reiterate, thank you to everyone that provided feedback, but yes, in particular to our Youth Council, who provide feedback often on many matters, but this is just another piece of outstanding work from that group. So congratulations to them.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I would just simply echo the comments of my colleagues and really also acknowledge the submissions that have come in, and particularly the really comprehensive submission by the Youth Council, which not only identified issues but also options going forward. So on that note, I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Item 5.4, Tender Report 2023-104, Construction of Baltram Drive Extension and Associated Drainage Works. And if I could ask our Acting Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Nick Mazzarella, to introduce this item. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off by just informing the Council that officers have provided and tabled an amendment to this report this evening, which relates to the confidential section and a clarification on the sustainability elements. I'd like to introduce Morris Cerruto, the Unit Manager of Engineering, Design and Construction, and Morris will provide us a quick presentation regarding the extension of Beltram Drive and the associated roadworks.
Thank you, Nick. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the awarding of a contract for the construction of Beltram Drive from Emden Road to Salt Lake Boulevard in Wollert and associated drainage works. These works were triggered by the Victorian School Building Authority, or VSBA, purchasing land south of the proposed Beltram Drive extension for the proposed Wollert Central Primary School, scheduled to open in 2025. The accelerated works are required to service the school and mitigate traffic congestion around the school site. The new road will connect existing communities either side of the proposed road. The major elements of the works are the construction of 210 metres of two-lane road, shared path, landscaping and street lighting, and 410 metres of a new drainage pipeline designed to capture stormwater from the existing developments to the north. The VSBA will contribute construction costs for the overall project, and Melbourne Water will contribute to the drainage costs. The duration of the works is 24 to 30 weeks, with commencement planned for late July 2024. A communication plan will be implemented to inform the local community of the impending works. Now, the main beneficiaries of this project include the residents of Wollert, with the construction of road and drainage infrastructure to service this developing area, the future school community through delivery of a road link that will provide safe pedestrian crossing points, and the existing Glaurey Catholic Primary School community on Beltram Drive through the provision of an east-west link, and local businesses through improved road connectivity. In terms of the tender submissions and evaluations, 4 submissions were received, and after thorough tender evaluation
Morris, sorry, could I just interrupt you for a minute and just, obviously you require an extension of time. So under the governance rules, I seek a procedural motion to allow an extension of time of up to a further 2 minutes.
So moved, Chair.
And do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour? That motion's carried. Thank you, Morris.
So after a thorough tender value process, a local contractor, Winslow Constructors Pty Limited, was evaluated as representing best value for Council. It is therefore recommended that contract 2023-104 is awarded to Winslow Constructors Pty Limited for the lump sum price of $2,599,361.84, excluding GST.
Thank you, Morris. You only needed a few additional seconds. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I don't, Chair. Thank you.
No,
Administrator
Chair.
Duncan? I also have no questions relating to this item. So again, I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.
I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara, did you want to speak at all?
I'll be very brief, Chair. Just really to thank our team for their work on this. As our officers have set out, there are a lot of beneficiaries of this project, a lot of different groups who are going to get a very real benefit from these works. So I thank the team for their thoroughness, appreciate what's gone into producing this outcome, and look forward to rolling it out and hearing its completion.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan?
What he said, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we now move to item 5.5, governance rules, and if I could ask our Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO to present on this particular item. Over to you, Jacinta.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Following community feedback sought between the 22nd of May and the 5th of June, this report seeks Council's adoption of the governance rules. The feedback received covered commentary or feedback on such matters like the use of signage in the Council chamber, information on what changes were made to the acknowledgement of traditional owners, asking public questions from the floor, speaking to petitions or joint letters, and Council's new local law that comes into effect on the 1st of July, which is not relevant to the governance rules. Officers thoroughly considered the feedback and comments received and concluded no further amendments were required at this stage, and that was to ensure that Council meetings continue to run in an orderly, respectful and safe environment for everyone involved or in attendance at our Council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Again, administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I don't, Chair. Thank you.
No, Chair.
I also have no questions, so I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.5.
I'm happy to move in that way, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara, and a seconder.
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's a fairly comprehensive setting out of the feedback in the report, which is in the agenda papers. I just encourage people who might be tuning in to check that out. It's a pretty broad cross-section of feedback. Hard to sort of pick up a single theme, but people have obviously taken the time to participate through that process. And even though we are resolving that we feel comfortable that the recommended approach has got the balance right, it's not to say we don't appreciate people taking the time to contribute their feedback. So just through you, Chair, just to take this public opportunity to thank each of those people. I think there was 5 of them in total who took the time to do that. There are many different elements to these proposed changes, which I won't set out in detail, but I just make the point that they are an attempt to get things right in terms of the balance. And in particular, little things like giving more time to people to make presentations. It might not seem like much, but if you're trying to get your point across to Council and you've got 3 minutes instead of 2, it'll feel like a lot at the time. So I think that's a fair thing to do, fair in terms of inclusiveness as well, and getting the balance right in terms of how everyone needs to feel in this public space. And I really just want to thank again our officers for fairly sensitive consideration of this, in many ways well before the community consultation process. There was a lot of thinking before we obviously went out to community consultation. In some ways that's reflected in the fact that we feel pretty comfortable, having received that feedback, that we're on the right track. So thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
No comments, Chair. Thank you.
I think I might just make a comment, and that really is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the 4th revision of our governance rules since we were appointed as administrators, and I think that's reflective of the importance of constantly reviewing and amending as required from almost a best practice. So that they are contemporary governance rules, and there'll be further opportunities obviously into the future for further amendments of the governance rules. And I think to Administrator Zara's comment just even about the revisions in these governance rules, including regarding speaking times, it was just even indicative tonight when officers were trying to introduce reports that 2 minutes can be a very brief period of time to convey a lot of important information. So I really applaud the further revisions. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 5.6 is the governance report, and if I could again ask Jacinta Stevens to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. The governance report tonight covers 2 items. The first is to request Council note the unconfirmed Audit and Risk Committee minutes from the meeting held on the 14th of May. At that time, the committee discussed matters relating to the 2024-25 Annual Internal Audit Plan and its progress, quarterly risk management and risk treatment plans relating to the strategic and operational risks, quarterly corporate performance report covering the progress of the community plan, financial performance and capital works program. The second item within the governance report relates to instruments of delegations from Council to officers. These delegations ensure staff are exercising the correct powers, duties and functions on behalf of Council and are subject to biannual review. The main changes in these delegations reflect recent changes to various legislation, for example, the Planning and Environment Act powers, the powers to apply to VCAT, and position titles as a result of a recent position realignments within Council directorates. The proposed instrument of delegation will come into effect from the signing by the Chair Administrator and CEO and affixing the Council Common Seal to the delegations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this governance report?
I don't, Chair.
No, Chair.
I also have no questions, so I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.6.
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara, and a seconder.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Just very briefly, Chair, I think that I just take the opportunity to make the observation that I think this reporting framework that we've got in place for all governance matters is working well. It's got everything where people can read it as a set and get a pretty comprehensive perspective about all matters associated with governance in terms of the administration of City of Whittlesea. So I just note that. I thank the team for their work and happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to Administrator Zara's comments, obviously this is an administrative function that we need to do, but as we talk about good governance, and part of that is transparency, and this is just another layer of being transparent in decision making. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 5.7, Quarter 3 Community Grants Update, and if I could again invite our Acting Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Sharon Durantini, to introduce this item.
Thank you. This item is to provide an update on the grant applications in Quarter 3 23-24 as part of the Community Grants Program. I'll hand over to our Grants Coordinator, Louisa.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, everyone. In Quarter 3, Council received 60 grant applications and approved $68,000 of funding to community groups. This quarter also offered another round of funding for female inclusion in sport. Some great applications were funded for things like coaching development, upskilling representative players, and subsidies and uniforms and fees. We offered our first round of the Business Relocation and Growth Program. The primary objective is to increase employment for our residents in the preferred target industries through this grant. The approval rate of applications submitted sits at 28%, a slight increase from last quarter. We will continue to work collaboratively with other areas in Council to deliver information sessions and run grant writing workshops to continue to work on improving the approval rate of grants submitted. For this quarter, we were invited to present about community grants to the Cultural Heritage Network, Kindergarten Information Night, the Northern Metro Volunteers Network, and information sessions held in Mernda. Before seeking further questions, I'd like to share feedback we received through an acquittal from the first round of food relief. In the acquittal, we asked whether there are any unexpected benefits, and we received the following response. The program cultivated a sense of community and enhanced school attendance, as confirmed by authorities. Also, there are now more people contacting us to provide them with food hampers, which shows a growing demand. Some of the beneficiaries expressed their gratitude to receive the food hampers from us, telling us how much it is a blessing for them and very helpful in these difficult times. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Louisa. Right on cue. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I do, Chair.
Administrator Zara?
Thanks for the report. It's very comprehensive. And as I was mentioning before, Chair, I just applaud the way that our officers always just put the information so publicly and upfront in their reports, obviously as a part of what Administrator Duncan was referring to before as our public accountability and transparency. It's fantastic. I just want to ask our team, while we have this opportunity, how you think it's going overall. We've obviously introduced a new community grant scheme. I think we're about 10 months in. So maybe I'll just start there, if that's all right, Chair. Just ask our team, how do you feel it's going overall? Are we heading in the right direction with our new scheme?
The general feel is that we're seeing a more diverse number of applications coming through, offering the individual grants. We're seeing different applications for things we didn't even think of. We've had a few applications for cheerleading overseas. So we are seeing a diverse range of applications coming through. We are in also accepting that there are some amendments that may need to be made. So we have currently our draft guidelines proposals through our Engage web page for changes coming into the new year.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. And that diversity, as we all know, is so important, Chair. These programs can become dominated by single, well, not single, but locally very well-established groups very quickly. That's a great thing for having diversity. Can I also take the opportunity, Chair, to ask another question?
Please do.
I know that there's a review, when we signed on to the new scheme, a review coming up, probably in a couple of months. Can you perhaps give us a sense of what you're thinking or planning in terms of that review and how you might engage the community in that process?
Thank you. So the review is to look at it comprehensively and to identify where the blockers are, and also to consider something that's come up previously in terms of assessments and community assessments, which has been identified previously. So the review is to basically look at the whole program and how we are going in alignment to previous audits that were undertaken.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about that at an appropriate juncture in the future. Thank you, Chair, and thanks to our team.
Thank you. Administrator Duncan, do you have any further questions?
Just two questions, thanks, Chair. Louisa, with the medium and large groups that are applying for grants, how often can they do that, and is there a cut-off period for different times throughout the year when we do those rounds of grants?
The medium and large grants are open every quarter, so they can apply as much as they want to. However, they'll only be approved for 2 grant applications. So we go from July to September, October to December, January to March. So this is Q3, and then Q4 will be from April to June. So the information we do provide communities apply as many times as you want, and what we've seen is a few were not approved in the first few rounds and came back and were approved in the most recent one.
So that would mean that if I'm a medium to large group, that the grant application will be closed on the 30th of June this year?
Yes.
Yep. And then my follow-up question, thanks, Chair, to Louisa, is if I'm just an individual or a small group and wanting to access grants, how often can I do that? Is it like the medium to large?
No, it's on a monthly basis.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Sorry to do this to you, Louisa, but I've also got a couple of questions, and I think that's really symbolic of how important our community grants program is to us and obviously to the community as well. I note the comments in the officer report, which is on page 240, regarding grant applications which have been declined and the broad reasons why. Can you just advise, how do we convey that information back to the submitters?
We actually do put in personalised responses as to why they have been not approved, Chair, and that's to assist them to improve their next application for our community grants, and it also keeps it transparent on why.
That was what I was hoping you were going to say, but do you think also, I note that we've conducted a number of community information sessions to support community groups. Do you think that we'll be tailoring some of those additional community information sessions to address some of the reasons why perhaps people are submitting unsuccessful grant applications?
Yep, so each of the information sessions we do hold, we make it an interactive information session that anyone can ask a question at any point in time, especially with the high number of, I guess, culturally and linguistically diverse communities we have in this region. Not only that, we have held a community information session for the Punjabi-speaking community, and that's led by, I guess, the staff on the ground that recognise that need, so that we work with them collaboratively.
Excellent, thank you for that. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.7?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Over to you, Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I just encourage people who might be watching this broadcast at home or subsequently to really check out the attachment which is in the Council agenda papers. So to be precise, 0.5.7.1, it really is a comprehensive setting out of all details associated with the running of the community grant scheme, including who's applied, who's been successful, how much those awards are, and the names of all the groups. And it's really pleasing, Chair, when you have a look at that and you look at some of the different groups that have received grants through the Community Grants Program, that they're, just as our officers were alluding to before, representative of the broad diversity of our community, which is exactly what we would want to see. And in a very fast-growing and very diverse community like ours, that's so important, that people feel as though they can participate, and if they put forward an application, it'll be considered on the merits, and they've got a pretty good chance of receiving support. And I very much liked hearing from our team that in those circumstances where people are unsuccessful, that we're taking the time and making the effort to give them personalised feedback. I can't emphasise enough, I know our team don't need any advice from me on this, but it is so important that people hear that feedback because that's how people feel both, if you like, recognised for the fact that they made an application, and then that they're important enough to someone to take the time to try and demonstrate the process and how they can be more successful to it. All those things are incredibly important. So I just encourage people, as I mentioned before, please read that report. It is a part, as Administrator Duncan was alluding to before, of our public accountability and transparency to put that information into the public domain. I'm very pleased to receive that report and update, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
You betcha, Chair. Can I just first of all say congratulations to the team at the City of Whittlesea for the work they've done to get this program to where it is and how it's high functioning now and really offering support to the community to be able to understand why they haven't got a grant, and in some instances we know that there's been assistance to those groups that have put in a grant to get them to the point that where they might have missed something and it's that direct feedback, personalised feedback, so that they can reapply again, which has made them, I would hope, most of the time successful in their application. And I really just wanted to note that this is really the first year of having the grants program in this particular structure, and that we've given out almost nearly $600,000 or nearly over $600,000 to community groups that are doing things for our community. And that's really, really important. I think that council supports those groups that want to do things for others in the community, whether they're big, medium, small or individuals. It takes a village and everyone's contributing. So a big thank you to our team for making it more accessible and easier to navigate. I think that's really important because sometimes it can be a bit of a behemoth, but we've made it quite simple, and for that personalised touch as well, to also notify as to why you haven't been successful and perhaps try again, or in some instances you might have missed something, so we're helping you. And just for those that are watching tonight, that to think about what it is you could add to the community, and so put in a grant application, because obviously this program is here for everybody in the City of Whittlesea. Well done to everyone.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. If I could echo the comments of my colleagues, but also perhaps just again reiterate a point that I've made on a number of occasions. As Peter indicated, we're only 10 months into the first year of our community grants program, and this really is best practice. And as we know, there have been a number of recommendations that have been made by the Auditor-General looking at local government community grants programs and the importance of keeping them at arm's length from council. And I also note just the efficiency of this whole process, from the time of submission of a grant to notification. I mean, that's really, I think, revolutionised the way that our community grants program operates. So I echo the congratulations of my colleagues to the team and look forward to the further review, which we won't be here when that further review occurs, but just to see what further iterations there will be in the near future to improve the community grants program further. Thank you very much. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. I think we gave you a good grilling, Louisa, and you did very well. Thank you very much. Just in relation to notices of motion, I note there are no notices of motion. Administrators, are there any items of urgent business that you have?
None,
No, Chair.
I also have none. So if we move to the reports of council representatives and the CEO update, Administrator Zara, is there anything you would like to note?
None from me this month, Chair.
Thank you. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. On the 27th of May, I had the privilege to attend and speak at National Sorry Day, which was a council event, and I just want to pass on my thanks to everyone that was involved in organising that, because it was an absolutely wonderful day. We had groups of school children here, a lot of staff, a lot of visitors from the municipality that participated. And it was just a very, very nice day and a way to recognise Sorry Day. So well done to everyone that was involved in getting that all together, and for it being such a respectful and lovely morning. And then I also attended a council briefing with yourself, Chair, in early June. That's it from me, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. If I could just note a couple of important events that have occurred over the last month. Firstly, in my role as being on the board of the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Corporation, I had the pleasure of reading one of the National Simultaneous Storytime books at the Mill Park Library, which was really well attended by a number of preschools and primary schools, and it was a real delight. We already noted earlier the City of Whittlesea Business Awards. I had the great honour, or otherwise, it was an incredibly difficult task to be on the judging panel of the Business Awards, but also to be present on the evening for the presentation of the awards in late May, and that was just an amazing event. We had the recognition of our wonderful volunteers right across the municipality, which was the National Volunteer Week celebration and luncheon at Barry Road, and that, as always, was a great delight to be in attendance. I attended the Municipal Association of Victoria Mayor and CEO dinner recently, and that was a really good opportunity for our key peak body to be advising us in relation to their strategic directions going forward. I had the Northern Business Achievement Awards. We had 2 of our local businesses that were nominated to those awards and a Young Achiever, and we'll be waiting the outcome of the overall annual awards. And then we've been busy with a number of sod turns and or receipt of grants, and alongside the acting CEO and our CEO, we attended a number of events. We attended the Whittlesea Township Park Connecting Community through improved access with Lauren Cathergy, MP member for Yanyin. And that was turning of a very hard sod. And also we had the Lorimer Recreation Reserve cricket nets improvement celebration last week, and that was really wonderful to be there to celebrate with the Lorimer Cricket Club. And then I'll just note in conclusion the Ageing Well Expo that was conducted today, and again pass on my really sincere appreciation to our staff who put that amazing expo. I think there was over 300 people in attendance, and I think from memory some 52 stall holders with information and wonderful freebies, and it was just an incredible vibe. So, Agata, if you could pass on my appreciation to staff. And I'll now ask the Acting CEO to provide an update to Council and members of the public. Over to you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. And you just ticked off a couple of mines. That was Whittlesea Township and the Lorimer Nets, where we did go out for those sod turns, which is fantastic to get the community out there and see some of the projects that we have underway. But we also have works are expected to begin in the next fortnight on a project to improve the safety and accessibility at the shopping precinct in Tramoo and High Street, Laylaw. The works will deliver improved pedestrian safety through the replacement of footpaths and the installation of new raised pedestrian crossings in Tramoo Street. Driver safety will be improved through the introduction of 45-degree angle parking on a selection of High Street and new parallel parking spots in Tramoo Street. A new bike path will connect to Edgars Creek, and seating bins, trees and bike racks will be installed to improve the area. That's a $900,000 project, which is funded by Council and $200 from Victorian State Government's Living Local Suburban Grants program. And we're expecting to finish that in September this year. So also we've got, as the financial year draws to a close, I'm pleased to report that Council has had another very productive year renewing our transport infrastructure. This program of works includes the resurfacing and rehabilitation of approximately 20 kilometres of roads throughout the municipality. Council has also reconstructed about 9 kilometres of curb and channel and renewed more than 2 kilometres of footpaths. So it's also pleasing to note that almost 2,500 tonnes of recycled materials have been diverted from landfill and used in these road renewal projects. That's all from me, Chair.
Thank you very much, Debbie. And can I also note that all of our verbal reports will be documented in the minutes. I note that we don't have any items of confidential business this evening, and so that brings us to the end of the meeting, and therefore I declare the meeting formally closed at 7:04. Thank you.